Welcome to this video where we're going to talk about how to use a passage list in sermon prep. And this video is going to assume that you're probably familiar with some of the tools of Logos um, and that you know what a passage list is. You may be familiar with some of your guides. So this is for someone who is familiar with the software. If you're brand new to the software and you're just learning it, I still encourage you to watch this because this will still be beneficial for you as you learn to use the software. So I'm going to create a passage list. First thing I'm going to do is I'm opening up my search panel, and I want to do just a search for, I'm going to do search preaching theme, colon, we'll say God's love right there. So Logos has the data sets, the tagging behind the text, so to speak. It shows me all these passages that have the preaching theme of God's love. This is not saying that these are just the verses that deal with God's love. There's a lot more than these verses, but these preaching themes deal specific with the specific kind of topics in specific ways. For instance, you could do a search for a preaching theme about Mother's Day or Father's Day, and those holidays are going to be in here, even though no passage talks specifically about Mother's Day or Father's Day. So it's kind of a neat way to be able to search information, and you can always go to the data set and look online about preaching themes and to get more information. But what I want to do is I'm going to create a document, new passage list, and I'm going to title this Sunday's Sermon, and you can title it whatever you want. And I've got all these verses here that have to do with God's love. And let's say I'm preparing for a sermon and I'm going to have two kind of texts, even though I tend to preach from one text, but maybe you have two or three or four texts that you're working through. This is a great way to be able to search your commentaries with multiple text with one search. Is what we're doing. So I'm going to add John 15, 9 through 10. And because I've got that right here, John 15, 9 through 10, I'm also going to add Romans 8, 38 through 39. So now I've got that text right there. And then I'm going to add the 1 John 4, 8 through 10 right there. So now I've got these three passages in my Sunday sermon passage list. So these are going to show up just like any normal passage list. But what I want to do is I want to search all of my commentaries, especially my versified resources, meaning when the commentary is written where you might have a pericope as a section, you might have a chapter of a book of the Bible as the section. Like commentaries, you go to a commentary and you want to find out what this commentary says about John 15, 9 through 10. You go to that section instead of page number. It's a versified resource. I want to show you how within one search you can get all that information on these three verses. So I'm going to open up a search panel right here, and instead of being at the Bible tab, I'm going to be at the Books tab, and I'm going to show you how Logos makes it wonderful with the tagging and the collections within your resources, because you can make smaller and smaller kind of searches to get the information that you want. So we're going to start with all library. I've got over 16,000 books. I'm going to type up milestone colon passage list. So what this is saying, this is telling Logos with this milestone colon passage list, and you'll see that I've got passage complete small caps and then list in a large cap for the L, but no space in between. So milestone colon passage list colon, and then it brings up my my passage list. What this is saying is that I want to use the verses in these passage lists to search through the milestones, meaning the chapter, the heading, the larger way that my resources are utilized, how they're written, how they're defined within the software. And then I'm going to just do a Sunday, and right there, that Sunday sermon, that that passage list that we just made. Logos is now doing a deep dive into all of my resources. So as you can see, it's looking up every book that has to deal with this passage. And it's not just going to be commentaries, it's also going to be Bibles that show up in here, because Bibles are versified resources. And it's kind of Greek resources. And The reason I'm showing you this is because when you harness the power of the tools within Logos, you're able to get a really good search for kind of what you're wanting to look for. So instead of doing all books, I'm going to narrow it down to, I've got, we'll just type commentary, and it says I've got 3,704 commentaries, and now we've taken off several hundred, and instead of looking at Bibles, now I'm just looking at the different books within my library, and you can do the different grouping like you would any Logos search. I generally keep it on book, but you could do any of these, and you're able just to go through, and all of these are going to be about the verses within that passage list. 407 is still too large for me, so I'm going to go down here, and instead of commentary, I'm going to begin to go through some of my collections or tags that I've got. So I'm going to look up things like maybe my expository commentaries. Now look at that. We're down to 57 resources. 57 resources is getting much more manageable when we use the tools in Logos to create the collections or tag the resources. But here's the thing to remember. When you're doing this kind of search, you're searching multiple books of the Bible. So you're searching things through John, you're searching things through Romans, you're searching things through 1 John, all within your versified commentaries. So if you've got multiple passages that you're looking at and you want to do a one-way search in your versified resources, this is the way to go. Now, me personally, I like to go through things one at a time. So I'm much more likely to use my passage guide or even do just a search. Like here, we could do the same search, milestone, Bible, and could do John 15, 9 through 10. And now I'm just looking up commentaries that have to do with John 15, 9 through 10 within those versified resources. So I tend to look at it one at a time. But I still think this is a helpful thing to keep in mind as you study, to be able to have one search with multiple verses within that search, to use the power of passage list to look at all of your commentaries together. I think that's pretty cool. And when you combine it with tagging and collections, you can really narrow down the kind of search that you want to do. So hopefully this video is helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comments, and I will hopefully be able, Lord willing, to make more videos. So hope you all have a wonderful evening.